Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, March the 18th, episode 99, Ted. We're almost there to
If
100.
you're alive, you didn't drink that much yesterday on St. Patrick's Day.
I know. Well, I mean, I don't. Does anybody really celebrate St. Patrick's Day, though?
Well, they do in New York.
Do they?
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, no, I mean, things get ugly here.
Oh, see, remember, I'm from LA.
People puke, like
Ooh.
projectile puke. They're drinking hard by 8 o'clock in the morning.
Green puke.
Green
What?
puke everywhere.
I
They're
guess
like,
that makes sense. You know, a
yeah,
lot of
it's
Irish people are
projectile
there.
vomit. They're fighting by like
I mean, the
8:30
Irish
in the
built New
morning.
York City, right?
Yeah, look, it's a very
Makes
Irish
sense.
city. It's like, I mean, it's like Boston, San
St.
Francisco.
Patty. Oh, yeah.
These
Well,
are, yeah.
For us in California, we do, at least in LA, we do Cinco de Mayo.
Right, yeah. Cinco de Mayo, it's funny because in LA, everyone assumes that Cinco de Mayo is a big national thing. It's really not.
No.
I mean, in New York, like nobody cares. It's like at the Mexican restaurant, yeah,
Oh.
they notice. But that's it. It's like, and it's not like we don't have any Mexicans here. We have tons. But we actually have so many more. If you see like Latinx people, as the liberals like to say, they tend to be, a lot of them are like, Puerto Rican or Dominican.
Right.
They're not Mexican here, so they're different.
Right. And here in the DC Metro, the Latinx, which is funny because I every Hispanic and Latino person I know, they hate Latinx, by the way.
Yeah, polls have shown that. It's not even just like it's not like a talking point. Like, it's just a fact that Latino people hate it. They just want to be called Latino.
They're just Latino. Like, they want to take it back. They're mad that like the academics have decided to call it Latinx.
Although I like Latinx better than Latinx.
I do like that.
Because, by the way, it's just like, if it is Latinx, it should be like Latin lowercase and then X, like Malcolm X.
A big X.
It should be a big X. It shouldn't be. It looks like Latinx. I'm sorry.
It looks like Latinx.
Or if you can't do the big X, then it should be -X. I would understand that too.
Right. But it sounds like it would be some kind of like Latin rap artist.
Yeah, that's true.
Latinx. Come see Latinx tonight live.
True.
At Staples Center, which isn't even Staples Center anymore.
And a Latinx sounds like it's some kind of mammal, or perhaps a marsupial.
I thought big cat.
Hunted. Oh, really? I was thinking, yeah, maybe like a minx. Like, I feel like it's like a weasel or a ferret type creature that's hunted for its fur.
Yes, I definitely.
It takes like 37 Latinxes to make a full coat for a wealthy woman in Beverly Hills. Like, how don't you feel terrible? Those Latinxes, they were minding their own business, living in the shrubs, in peace, in harmony with nature. And then you came and you trapped them and clubbed them as their babies were screaming. Mommy!
Well, the Latinxes here, and again, Cinco de Mayo is not a big thing here either, despite all the Latinxes in Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But they are like Salvadorian or Nicaraguan or just anything other than. They're Central and South American here. There are very few Mexicans. I always get excited when I meet Mexicans. I'm like, oh my God, you're a Mexican.
It's so true. Yeah, and where I'm from in Ohio, it was assumed generally, not by me, that everybody was that all Latino or Latinx people are Mexican. But of course, obviously, that's not true. Yeah.
Well, Lao people do the same thing. We generally, like, in the language, Hispanic or Latino people are referred to as Mexican because they're from Laos. They're from Asia. There are no
there are no Latinos there. Yeah.
So I guess the Lao people, in their first encounters with Hispanic people, they were Mexican. So that is the word for Hispanics. And then so you say they're, the Mexican so-and-so person, the Mexican person from Honduras, or the Mexican person from Brazil.
There's the whole thing about like how, like people of like the Spanish the fake Spanish pronunciations that white people are expected to do. Like, you're supposed to say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Or, it's like you would never say like, if someone had a French sounding name, you would never be like François Mitterrand. You just say like François Mitterrand.
Or, well, Emmanuel Macron.
Right, yeah, I can say that because I'm pretentious and French. But like Emmanuel Macron. Yeah.
You gotta do the.
Yeah, or like we don't do it with Italians either. Like
that's true. I know. Well, I don't know. I don't know why it's done with the Latinx names. Why? It's
like if you're woke, you're supposed to be like, you're not supposed to say like, oh, Honduras. You're supposed to say Honduras. El Salvador.
Honduras. I know. But I mean, it's dumb. It's dumb.
Makes a little more sense it does make more sense in California. In Southern California, I think pretty much, actually, I think, honestly, I don't think you should be able to graduate from high school if you're not fluent in Spanish. I mean, it should be required. I mean, it's like necessary to live and you really should have to have it for your own good.
I was fairly conversational in Spanish, and Robbie is shaking his head because he's like, deport them all. But
always. Yeah.
But in some instances, many of the friends I grew up with, because remember, America happened to them, right? To their colonized them. They were already there in that land that I lived in, that I grew up in Southern California. America happened to them, right? So generationally, they had already been there. So many of the friends I grew up with, even though they are Mexican, don't speak Spanish at all. And here's this little Asian girl that spoke better Spanish than most of my girlfriends that I grew up with, which is bizarre given that
I tried to learn Spanish. I felt that Spanish was more so interestingly in the 80s. There was a lot, it felt like Spanish was more necessary in New York then than it is now. I just used to encounter a lot more people who only spoke Spanish and didn't speak English very well at all.
Why doesn't everybody speak Gaelic in New York?
Gaelic? Yeah, that's a crazy language too.
I mean, they're Irish. The Irish built New York City.
I dated an Irish girl from Ireland, and Gaelic. she basically, it's peculiar. Like Gaelic and Dutch are both like the person's talking to you, and all the inflections sound very similar to English, and you're like, oh, I should, but it's like they're not. Really? It's like, yeah, like if you talk, basically the person will talk, and you'll be like, wait. Am I stupid? Why am I not? Do I have a stroke? Do I not understand what this person's saying? Because it's not like, if you hear someone speaking Mandarin, they're not speaking English.
Right.
It's like, that's just not true. Like if you were to overhear people speaking, say, Dutch, across the street, you'd be like, oh, they're American. You wouldn't know. And it's like, then you go and talk, and it's like, so it's really a mind F. We're not 8 minutes into the show yet. Yeah.
I'm just joking about Gaelic because I don't know if I've ever heard it.
Really? Oh, well, yeah, if you meet anyone, if you meet any Irish from Ireland people, you should ask them to. Although I always hated that. Like, say something in French.
So people say something in Laotian.
Yeah. Say, how about this? Say this.
Laotian.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, your French people did that to my people.
That's true.
Because of the different tribal peoples in what was ununified Laos back in the, like the 1600s or whatever it was. It was an ununified region of Lao people. And so when the French carved up Laos, it was really supposed to be Lao. And they were referring to the people as the Laos, like plural. They put the S there as plurals. And the Americans were like, oh, that's Laos. So the Americans were like, okay, this is Laos. And the people then must be Laotian.
Ah, interesting.
So that's how that all...
And knowing the French, they no doubt picked their favorite tribe, right?
Yeah.
They must have picked a tribe that they elevated among the Laos, who that's what they always did. These colonists, they'd always be like, we like these guys best. And they usually choose the minority. And then
is that the French thinking?
The French thinking is always like the colonial thing is you go into the country, you pick the second biggest tribe, you give them privileges, and then that's a way of they're psyched because they're suddenly like, dominant in a way that they never were before. And then you use them to oppress the biggest tribe. Yeah, I'm just telling you. Yeah, it's the French way.
This is the French psyche. It's just how
it's
it
also
works.
the British way too. It's a it's a colonial thing.
That's true. And yeah, my people are not colonizers. They just existed. People of the Mekong Valley. So anyway, we're going way off topic. So today we're going to talk about just a myriad of different headlines. Does the Mekong River
go all the way into Laos?
Yeah. Are you kidding? That's like the lifeblood of Laos.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. It's like it borders Laos, right? I mean,
it cuts off Laos from Thailand.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I have been on the boat.
Been there.
I've been on a boat that crossed the Mekong River, and it was crazy. They were catching. Do you know about the Mekong catfish? Before we move on to the news, I've
heard and seen videos.
So
I've never been there.
They're monsters. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're beasts. They're like
that's what I heard.
4 or 5 feet. They're like 5 feet, 6 feet long.
Yeah.
And I think they're kind of in danger. But anyway, so I saw the fishermen catching them, and they net them, right? And in the Mekong River, and it's like not even a tourist thing. You just happen to pull over on your bike or your, I was on a motorcycle or
cruising along.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And you're like, what the hell is that?
And I see them pull these beasts out of the water. They club them to death.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes like 4 or 5 like scrawny Southeast Asian people to like overwhelm one of these fish. I mean, the fish should just eat them.
Big fish.
Yeah, they're monsters.
Big fish. Yeah. The Lao people are not very big people, so
no, nor are the Thais. I mean, they're basically, I hate to say this, but they're all very similar, right?
No, they are.
To Western eyes.
People of Siam.
Yeah,
that's ultimately what it was. I mean, prehistorically, there was people.
Yeah, those
Siam.
borders are artificial.
We're going to artificial history lesson here about Southeast Asia and the Khmer. I mean, roughly. I mean, it's really roughly the same culture, roughly the same. And the Indians passed through and brought Theravada Buddhism, just this whole thing. So
no, it's a
that's why Thailand, Laos, and
very
Cambodia.
Cool part of the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm writing this that podcast about with that famous director producer. Yeah, that's happening. So I've got to get jamming on that.
Right.
So I'm learning deep history. So if you guys are watching here on the TMI show, you're getting a free history lesson about Southeast Asia.
Yeah,
that I'm researching.
That's all part of the TMI way, right,
yeah,
Clovis?
We're all about
right?
TMI. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even finish the good morning. So anyway, yes, this is part of TMI. You see how you get too much information from the Ted Manila Information Show? I'm Manila Chan.
Like
that's Ted Rall. It's just like this. This is what it is. It's friends having a conversation, and then we bring on new friends, people that we make new friends with to talk about smart stuff. This is what this show is all about. We're live 10 a.m. Eastern. So please, guys, be sure to hit the like and the follow button or the subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're consuming this on. It goes a long way to really help this show grow because statistics show, and I know producer Robbie is going to be like, is that like 7 out of 10 people watching this are never going to hit the like button or the subscribe button, even though they watch. They watch.
I don't get that at all.
But you're watching it. It's not going to hurt you. Just move your finger over there and hit that button so you like and subscribe it. Anyway.
Yeah, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, producer Robbie's staring at us. Yes, Robbie.
I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now, and about 90% of the people who watch the content can't even be bothered to click a freaking button.
Come on, hit the button. Robbie's going to kick your ass.
Yeah, Robbie, don't make the Montana and surly. We don't need that. No one needs that.
Yeah.
Montanans get angry.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because they're being chased by bitey animals all the time.
That's true. That's true.
Big furry animals, and the weather is damn cold all year round, except for
I
like
was complaining because this morning I went for a bike ride and it was like 36, which for this time of the year is a little cold.
It's 23 and snowing right now.
I'm jealous, man. I got to move to Montana. It's like my kind of weather.
Well, hey, I mean, the invitation's open. All you got to do is just bring your patient over here.
Do you ever watch Pioneer House on PBS?
We're 50 and sunny.
Do you ever watch Pioneer House on PBS, the reality show? It's like where they take
No,
like rich white people and they move them to like live like it's the
No, I want to see this. Never
my
heard
God.
of it.
You know, it's amazing. There's Pioneer
It's
House.
called
there's-
what?
there's
Pioneer House?
There's Manor House. There's several, but the one in Montana is, I think, the best one. And basically, you have to live like you're in a 19th century pioneer. It's June, and while they were filming, there was a blizzard, and they were like, "Yeah, it's Montana. That can happen." And I was like, that's my kind of place.
Last year in July, it snowed.
Right.
I mean, it happened. It depends on how high up, on the snow line is that you are. I mean, it is what it is. And tell you what, Ted, if you come over here, they'd welcome with open arms. You'll get a little bit paler. You'll look more like me, just because
I'm always a little too red.
We don't have sun.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. We have sun like 2 months out of the year.
Yeah, that's plenty. That'll give you your vitamin D.
This is as cold as I can get. As you guys know, Iceland, I thought I was going to die, but I conquered the cold and climbed the mountain.
Manila, you'd be colder there than you would be here.
Oh.
It feels colder there because it's an island. You're surrounded by water. Here, it's all mountains and alpine.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Dry
cold.
Although Robbie, 20 below zero, is its own thing.
But the thing is,
I don't care how dry that is.
Well, you can't feel it. Is the whole thing because
you can't feel anymore.
That's the point. That's the point. George, there's like just dress for it appropriately.
Although you do feel like that,
layers.
you feel your skull, like you can feel the outline of your eye socket and stuff. It's so cool.
Well, what you can do is get something. If it gets really bad, just get one of those little ski masks and put it on. That way, you don't get frostbite on your lips and your nose.
But will I get killed by the police?
And also, if Luigi had been wearing his, he would never have been caught.
That's true.
Or go to Starbucks.
Yeah, it would cover up his eyebrows. His eyebrows gave him away.
So you know how he was caught, though, right? I mean, it's really interesting. They worked backwards. No, I mean, like how they ultimately, like how they got onto him. They worked backwards from he left the youth hostel at 5:30 in the morning, and so they worked backwards on the video. There's not many people on the street at 5:30 in the morning in New York City, so. They sort of like just use the surveillance cameras to see like, okay, where'd this guy come from? Where'd he come from there? Where'd he come from? And so they worked it back to the youth hostel. So they knew he came from the youth hostel. And so basically at so the way he was dressed is what, I mean, I don't know. It's just like, it's really hard to get away with stuff with CCTV everywhere.
Yeah,
it is. But I'll pop out here soon because we're going way over. But
yeah, we're way over.
But tomorrow, I guess y'all can announce what's going on tomorrow.
Oh yeah, and episode 100.
Yep, but
we're gonna have Mark Sloboda.
If y'all want to do Montana actually has a Great Wall of China. We really do. In the Bob Marshall Wilderness, it's this huge cliff. It's about 1,000 feet high. It's massive. And it's called the Great Wall of China because it's just it's a part of the Continental Divide. It divides the Bob Marshall. And the Bob Marshall Wilderness, that might be where the show you're talking about, Ted, is filmed, because you're not allowed to go in there with any kind of cars or everything's either bike, provided you can not run into a bear, or you have to hike in. And because there's no motor vehicles allowed, it's the largest, at least one of the largest wilderness preserves in the continental United States, and it's massive.
Cool.
So that might be. So if you come here, I'm going to take you there.
All right, cool.
Never heard of it. Gotta look it up.
But I'm about to give you a rifle because there are bears there, and I'm assuming you should have to shoot.
All animals love me. Bears will be like, they're going to come up.
Ted Rall delicious.
Yes, they will hug you and they will lick you as they're killing you, and then they will eat you, and then Clovis will be an orphan.
No, I'm going to be like one of those Facebook reels where like the Russians, they all have like a pet wolf and a pet bear, and they sleep with them. They're like, oh, hello, big bear, we love you.
So I have what the hell is Cinco de Mayo?
Oh, it's May 5th.
May 5th.
And it's the
Cinco is 5.
It's the anniversary of Mexican independence, right? It's the July 4th of Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where they beat the French.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's
everyone always forgets that the French had their ass way up in Mexico's business.
Well, I mean, is that the only war that Mexico's won? Was kicking the crap out of the French? Has Mexico won another war? I think
that's the only. Well, unless you want to count the war against the indigenous people,
right?
They don't
modern.
Yeah, I think that's the only war they've won. They've basically lost like what, a third of their territory to the U.S. in numerous wars.
Yeah, so poor French. I mean, they can't beat the Mexicans. God help them. Sorry.
Well,
Ted,
they didn't really. Honestly, I think that like both, it's like the Spanish in Florida. It was kind of like they didn't really care. It was like, if we keep it, we keep it. We're not going to spend any money on it. If it's like, you guys, you want it so bad, take it.
Yeah, well, Andrew Jackson is crazy anyway, so he just goes in Pensacola and just says, "Okay, this is ours now." So, but okay, that's enough of the history lesson. Goodbye, y'all.
Thank you. All right, let's get over into the headlines. Let's hit the jaws.
During the main story in a little bit, but the Israel-Hamas ceasefire has ended, as you may have heard. Israel resumed airstrikes against the Gaza Strip. 35 dead hostages in Gaza. By the way, the proposals were just like release the hostages or else. They didn't really want to negotiate. A group representing the families of the remaining hostages are now accusing Netanyahu of choosing to give up the hostages by launching these new airstrikes. It's pretty bleak and frankly pretty disgusting. It seems like a lot of this is for domestic Israeli consumption too.
One of the, I can't tell by the name if it's a mom or a dad of one of the hostages. They said Netanyahu has decided to murder our hostages. Einav Zangaker, whose son Matan is one of the 24 hostages believed to still be alive in Gaza. They said this on their Facebook. So she accused the prime minister of prioritizing his far-right allies who oppose the ceasefire, quote, over our children who are in captivity. And she also went on to say that he was violating the agreement and planning a return to war, a war that will kill the hostages, she says. And I don't think she's wrong. And that's not just like an angry mom. A lot of the opposition politicians from the opposition parties are saying the same thing, that this is Bibi trying to appease his far right constituents, and because obviously he needs to retain power and stay in power, because the moment this war ends, the moment there's any peace, the moment that the people in that region can gather themselves, and if there's any peace restored, then he and his wife are back in court, and if not, directly thrown in jail already, because they've been, basically it seems like all these trials against he and his wife for like corruption have been put on pause because war. Oh, just like Ukraine won't have elections because war. So I think the left parties in Israel are right in saying that this is a distraction. He just doesn't want to face the music, so he's continuing the war.
Yeah, no, that's right. He's a monster. All right, President Trump and President Putin of Russia are expected to talk today as the Trump administration tries to achieve a ceasefire in Ukraine, even as it loses one in Gaza. Trump said the topics will include power plants and dividing up Ukrainian assets. The call will take place between 4 and 6 o'clock local time in Russia. So I guess that means that call could already be starting, right?
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
11-ish.
It'll be the first known conversation between, although we know that there's been conversations, but it'll be the first known conversation since Ukraine agreed to support a U.S.-backed 30-day ceasefire, assuming that Russia agrees to do the same thing. Trump says he wants to move as quickly as possible. Putin's asking for some concessions. Many elements of a final agreement have been agreed to, but much remains, Trump says on Truth Social. He said that the war must end now, and he said he's looking forward to talking to Putin. Putin hasn't yet agreed on anything. He says that the idea for a ceasefire is the right one, and that we definitely support it, but has some conditions. That those include that Ukraine stop mobilizing new soldiers, training troops, or bringing in weapons for the duration of the ceasefire. Putin also said that Russia would continue to insist on a peace deal that addresses the original causes of the conflict, which began 3 years ago, saying that Russia will not stop fighting until Ukraine agrees not to join NATO, and that NATO will reduce its presence in Central and Eastern Europe. There,
kind
there
of
we
like a
go.
no duh, right? I mean, at this point, anyone that's paid any attention, like, hello, like, can somebody address the root cause of? It's like if you have, I don't know, some growth on your body somewhere, and you're like, let's say, like my breast cancer, right?
Like a shinus, let's say,
No, let's say like if my breast cancer had
or a
gotten to the point.
mannery.
I'm
I told you I
no.
had more of those. Anyway, yeah,
I'm
keep going.
like, imagine if like my breast cancer had gotten to this point that I don't know, let's say had some weird lump growing on the outside of my breast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, just lob that off. Just snip it off. It's fine. And I never find out that on the inside I had fucking breast cancer, right? Like that's the root cause of why the lump was there. It's not it's not because, oh, it's just a lump. That's what Pooty here is trying to suss out. And the ceasefire thing, I really think he is saying it to kind of appease Trump. So unless Trump is ready to fold, we're not playing anymore, right? Unless Trump is ready to fold and force Ukraine into this long, like all these terms that Putin wants, unless Trump is ready to force Ukraine into doing that, ain't nothing happening. There's not going to be a 30-day ceasefire. There's not the SMO will go on for months from now unless Putin gets all of his demands met. Like I firmly believe that. And I think when we talk to Mark, I think he'll probably echo the same thing. I mean, for all we know, though,
he will.
I think Trump can a lot can change though in the next couple of hours here, unless Trump really just decides to fold and agree with Vladimir Putin. Nothing doing.
I kind of don't know. I mean, that's a strange grammatical construction because I mean, I think Trump has been sympathetic to the. I mean, he's trying to broker a deal here, but I mean, I think he's signaled very clearly that he agrees with most, if not all, of Russia's conditions. So it doesn't. I mean, there has been no indication of anything that Russia has asked for that has been a non-starter for Trump. I mean, his representative, Trump's representative, has already said that Ukraine should not join NATO. So that's huge right there. Very clearly, the line.
But the Europeans are butting in, and they're saying that they have 30 countries that are willing to send.
But the Ukrainians, the Europeans are like the wild card here. But in terms of the negotiation between Trump and Zelensky and Putin, I mean, I think clearly, the only thing that could be a problem maybe is if the Ukrainians try to like have a multi-part like thing that just failed in Gaza, where it's like, okay, we have a ceasefire that leads to a negotiation, that leads to an armistice. Putin's not going to go for that because these things don't work. He's going to, but I mean, I think Putin, I think what we're going to end up with is a 30-day ceasefire during which the terms for an armistice are negotiated. The terms of the only real wrinkles are going to be that Russia doesn't have quite the exact territory that it wants. It has some territory it doesn't want. It has some territory it does want. It doesn't. It's missing some territory it would like. The issue of Odessa is like almost unresolvable. But that's it. I think if it comes down to, but let's just say they decide to freeze the conflict, keep it simple. Just like the line of control is the line of control. Wherever the battle lines are on ceasefire day one is where the new border is drawn. Then, I don't see any reason why they can't come to a deal. I predict this war is over in 2 weeks, if not sooner. That's 2 weeks at the longest. It could be over. It could be over like by tomorrow.
I mean, theoretically, yes. If Trump, and I phrase it that way because I don't trust Donald Trump in these peace negotiations because he's not a guy that
he's wobbly, and he does, he's getting calls from like Macron and Starmer and those guys.
That's what I'm afraid
of. That's the only thing that could bork it.
Whoever whispers in his ear last.
Trump is very determined to end this thing. So
but I don't know if I believe it. I mean,
I
I think
believe it.
more so him than would have been Kamala Harris. That's why I framed it
Kamala
that
Harris,
way.
are you kidding? She would have sent more money.
I know. It's just awful. I mean, so Trump is the best bet to see this come to an end. And I'm not sure, like, first, the U.S. needs to acknowledge that the ball is completely in Russia's court. It is their court. It's home court advantage at this point for them. They have the ball. It's home court advantage. They are winning the war. The demands that they make are what need to be met. Like
from
the
their
spoils
point
go
of
to the
view,
victor.
From their point of view, this isn't a foreign, it's not a foreign adventurism. From their point of view, it's existential because it's right on their on their very, very fragile border. That's why. I mean, it's like sort of like you're kind of like missing the point. Like, oh, they lost so many people, it's not worth it to them. This isn't like throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks. It's like, I think it's like, it's kind of like, it's like defeating the Germans in World War II.
Right.
You just have to. It's like no matter what it costs.
It's
because
like,
if you don't win, you're fucked. Right.
It's like a couple 100,000 soldiers or 60 million Russians.
Right. They think
that's how they look
think
at
it's
it.
going to be World War III. And it's hilarious that people who defend NATO don't, they refuse to see that. I mean, look, I always thought it's very important in life to be able to see things from the point of view of your adversary. And and
that's why we were silenced. Ted,
a lot of people
why
can't
RT
do
and
it.
Sputnik aren't around is because the American apparatus could not allow for the American public to hear.
But let me look this. If I were negotiating this deal, I think I'd probably be a pretty good arbiter for negotiations like this because I can really see all sides. I would tell the Ukrainians, like, listen, you got to go with this. This is a good deal for you. And let me explain why. In 10 years, your economy is going to be booming. And here's why. Because first of all, you're going to have first of all, you will have gotten rid of these pains in the ass ethnic Russians that your people don't get along with and don't like
them anyway.
And you don't like them. They don't like you. It's like they're gone. You're not fighting that war against them that you fought from 2014 to 2022. They're gone.
Right.
You
don't
now
need
have
to put them on your welfare
you
anymore.
now have a unified country, right? It's like you'll get rid of Zelensky and you can start having, and he wasn't popular before the war. You can elect someone that actually is more popular.
Right.
That's a win. The war obviously
you can have all the Bandera statues you want.
Yeah, you can Nazi it up. You can have a great time.
Do all the Bandera stuff that you want. Bandera Day, 365 days a year.
Every day. And then you can Banderite that shit up. Also, but more to the point, Putin is like, please feel free to join the EU. So they join the EU, and then the there's an EU country with a giant border with Russia. That becomes a massive trade zone between Russia for transit fee. Ukraine collects the transit fees on like a new Russian pipeline. They all the trade that goes back and forth across Ukraine into Russia into Eastern Europe.
They had that before.
But they'll even get it more. It would be like it, especially when it's an EU country, right?
That's why they were pissed though about Nord Stream 1 and 2. They were already pissed that Nord Stream 1 existed, but they were still getting overground transit fees from the Russians going into Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
And then when Nord Stream 2 came about, that removed like $6 billion worth of transit fees every year.
Right.
And that's what they got them really fuming was that no pun intended.
But they could go back to that. And so they could go, so economically it'll be a big win for the Ukrainians. They should take this and be like, ha 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 ha, great deal for us.
I think it's the best deal they can get. And I think for the Russians, I think it's important for them to see.
Well, the Russians want the war over.
They want the U.S. to recognize their ownership, if you will, of Crimea.
Yeah,
and
they also want the Russians. Regions. They also want the U.S. to get out of their grill in Eastern Europe.
For real.
Like fuck off, leave us alone.
Like go home, damn Yankees, go home. That's all they want is
leave us alone.
Get out of there.
Leave us alone.
But here's the other thing.
Bugging us. Yeah.
Here's the other thing, which I think Trump probably looks at because all he thinks about is business. And you and I have said this, we've established multiple times that Trump is very transactional. And I think part of the Trump and the Rubio State Department, Rubio is very much a China hawk, right? He looks at China, 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 and Trump looks at China, China, China too. But
he's man China.
The relationship between Russia and China has oddly, given the millennia's worth of back and forth fighting between ancient China and ancient Russia, now they're friends. And now that China's doing the Belt and Road Initiative, they want it to go all through like Kazakhstan and all the way into Russian territory, right? That's what they want, the BRI. BRI is now going to be land, air, and sea, the new Silk Road, right? This could be a big deal for the Ukrainians as well if they made this peace deal concession, is be like, hey, China, you want to extend that road a little further?
Yeah, Ukraine's naturally on a trade. They're on a trade route. They should. Yeah, I mean, really, truly,
they really should. But and Trump wants to block that. Is my point. He doesn't want China to expand, to have the opportunity to expand the trade route that far west, because that is a threat to obviously to U.S. trade. So and dependency. We Americans need that portion of the far east of Europe to depend on us and us bringing them stuff until, if and when, if ever, the Ukrainians get their manufacturing back to what it was pre-1991. So until that point, the Chinese are right there, though. They're right there. They can actually build a land bridge by way of Belt and Road Initiative straight into Ukraine, because the Russians are on board already. If you make nice with the Russians, like, hello, Ukraine, you can have BRI coming straight from China over to you. And, economic prosperity. But the U.S., I think, will not allow that, is my impression.
Right. Agreed. All right, let's keep going. Fighting erupted over the border that separates Syria and Lebanon over the weekend. The new Syrian government claims that Hezbollah triggered the violence by crossing into Syria, kidnapping 3 Syrian soldiers and executing them inside Lebanon. Hezbollah said, no, we didn't do anything like that. You're lying. Lebanon's state media blames the killings, which did happen, on local clans and militias. The two sides agreed to stop fighting late last night. The Syrians and Hezbollah have historically been allies, but things have changed, to say the least. Israel has pounded Hezbollah positions inside Lebanon in recent months, which has weakened the group and killed most of its leadership. But more importantly, the Syrian government is now composed of fighters who defeated the Assad regime, which had been, of course, Hezbollah's reliable regional partner. The new Syrian regime is different. They are former Al-Qaeda, former ISIS. So they don't, head choppers. They don't get along with the Hezbollah people. Americans might not realize this, but Hezbollah is actually the, more reasonable people there.
Yeah, believe it or not. And the funny thing is, all of Western media has just, in a snap, instantly now, Ted, have legitimized al-Jilani and is now using his formal diplomatic name as Prime Minister al-Shara.
Mm-hmm.
You know that? Like he's no longer the terrorist al-Jilani. He's now Prime Minister.
That was his nom. That I have to say, I'm going to push back on that. I mean, that was his nom de guerre, and his guerre is over, right? So, right? So it's like he won. So you don't do, you have even, like members of the French Resistance had a nom de guerre during World War II. And then, then after liberation, you get to go back to being, using your regular name. So
we don't know if al-Shara is actually his
yeah,
name.
It's his real name. Yeah.
Is it?
Apparently.
Do we know?
Yeah.
I
I didn't check his ID personally, but that's what they say.
I haven't seen any evidence of that because, all these guys use different names for different situations. So, it's like, I don't care what your name is. You're the same dude that was an Al-Qaeda cell leader, right? That was literally chopping off heads. You ordered head chopping.
You make that sound like it's a bad thing, Manila.
Like, and now he's being
Some heads need to be chopped.
He's like legitimized.
Those heads aren't going to chop themselves.
I think it's gross. I think it's gross that the Western media is now legitimizing this guy and whitewashing his resume. Like, there are people like what's his name? Football player Michael something that was in trouble for dog fighting. I forget. The Rumble Room will probably know.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
God, Michael something. I mean, 10 plus years ago, right? He was in trouble for dog fighting.
Mm-hmm. Michael Vick.
And Michael Vick. Exactly. He was in trouble for dog fighting, and his career has never come back. We have never allowed him to come back into like polite society, even after he served time and paid all kinds of penalties. We've never allowed Michael Vick back into the world for dog fighting. I mean, I think it's horrible, sure, but this is dog fighting. This dude was a head chopper. And we're suddenly like, oh, but now he's a prime minister, you know, like and so now those damn Hezbollah fighters, they're fighting Prime Minister
look at Menachem
Begin guys.
Look at the Israeli government when they came to power. They were a lot of them, not all of them, but many of them were terrorists against the British Mandate before 1948. You know, they blew up a hotel, a civilian hotel. I mean, that's terrorism, okay? So it's like, but then it's like, oh, you're prime minister. We get to call you polite names. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Arafat when he.
You could say the same thing about Bibi.
You could, yeah. I mean, not really. He was never really. He's a terrorist now. He's a state terrorist.
Well, I guess he started out as a normal politician, but
right. Mm-hmm.
But even still, the point is, we can say he's a terrorist now. And we still call him Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And we have a cute, cuddly nickname for him, even, Bibi.
Well, that's true. Although, remember, it does mean penis in French. I mean, it's not shinus, but it's, you know, I don't know. He might have a shinus.
I don't know. I don't want to.
Or a mangina.
I do not want to know. I don't want to know anybody's.
Or a brovary. I'm going to call him.
I don't want to know anybody's junk status. Period. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested.
Yeah, you do.
Keep your junk to yourself.
Keep
your junk in your trunk.
All right, here we go. Harvard University announced it yesterday that it will make tuition free for all students from households that earn under $200,000 a year and cover the full cost of attendance, including room, board, and other expenses like book fees, lab fees, etc., for students from households that earn under $100,000 a year. This move makes the school the latest to try to expand access to middle and lower income people. This follows similar moves by MIT, UPenn, and others. School officials say that more than 85% of families in the U.S. will get some sort of financial aid, with support tapering off as household income reaches $400,000 a year. Support is likely to be drawn from the university's endowment, the world's largest at about $50 billion. Admission still remains intensely competitive at Harvard, with an acceptance rate of nearly 3.5%. last year. So, you know, I have a little bit of a personal connection to this. I got into Harvard and I was not able to go because my parents were divorced and I lived with my mom all my life, but my dad was rich. And when I applied for financial aid in 1981, Harvard came back and said, oh, well, you know, we count your father's income. So therefore, we're not giving you any financial aid. You've got to pay full freight. And the idea at the time, I think, from Harvard's point of view, was they try to guilt the deadbeat dad into paying what he's supposed to pay. But, you know, it never works, and it never did. And ultimately, to Harvard's credit, they acknowledged that and they changed the rules. So if I were applying today, I wouldn't have had, assuming I could get in today, I wouldn't have had the same issue. So I
think you're the wrong color to get in today anyway.
Well, that could well be. At the time, I was kind of a diversity person because I was from Ohio, and really truly, these East Coast these East Coast colleges back then really didn't have a lot of Midwesterners. They were mainly drawing from, East Coast prep schools. And when I went to Columbia, there was only one other student from the state of Ohio in my class. And it was like, ironically from my high school. But it was really, really weird. I was joking that we should have like a Midwest Students Organization, because there would have only been like 4 members. Everybody was from the tri-state area, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, or maybe Massachusetts, like my roommate. There were so many people from fancy prep schools like Phillips Andover, Exeter, Choate, and so on. So it was like, I was like the diversity, being like, the son of a immigrant school teacher.
A girlfriend of mine got into Harvard from my little, ghetto part of the world in Los Angeles. And she's Latinx. Actually, she would probably hate me calling her that. She's a Mexican American woman. And this is the late 90s, right? So that was like a big gasp that somebody from our hood literally going to Harvard. And she was definitely one of the smartest kids I've ever known. And she got in on merit. And this is before, this is the late 90s, all before this DEI stuff took place. So she rightfully so earned her place to go. And lucky for her, there were grants and other stuff, because we're a poor working class community. There's no way her parents could have paid for any of that. And she's still in some debt, I think. We're 25 years out. I'm sure she still has some debt, but is it really worth it? The question is it worth it?
That these schools could do too is like do some retroactive fixing for their alums, people who didn't
like that.
Who were not, like your friend who didn't benefit from the more generous approach now, and say like,
still in debt now.
Like,
we're in our
you still have student loans, we'll pay those off for you.
That would be, and she went back to our community to teach. She could have gone on to do other things.
But if she went back to teach, she could have done one of those like Teach for America programs where they forgive all your loans if you teach in the hood or whatever.
Yeah, she never.
Although a lot of those programs are fucked up, and like there's people who do them, and then like then like you do everything you're supposed to do, and then the federal government's like, sucks to be you. We're just going to ignore and pretend to lose your application. So there's been all sorts of problems with that.
Here's the bigger question though, Ted. In today's day and age, is it still valuable to have a name like Harvard or Cornell
not as much as it used
Brown
to be. Not as much
on your
as it
resume?
Used to be.
Like, does anybody really give a fuck anymore?
I think it helps. Look, let's face it. If you're applying on LinkedIn to a job, I don't think it hurts your resume to have Harvard on it. But at the same time, it's like, there's also with, all these tech stories, like famously Zuckerberg dropping out of Harvard to go work on Facebook and stuff. That's really powerful. People really feel like, not to mention there's major opportunity costs, right? It's 4 years where you're not in the workforce, presumably. It's 4 years where you're learning stuff that probably doesn't have a lot to do with what you'll be doing at work. So you'll make some connections. I think you're not going to make as many great connections as you would have 40 years ago. You're going to be, because a lot of the more, ambitious entrepreneurial types are not going to necessarily go to a place like Harvard. You're going to end up with more sort of boring future attorneys.
Zuckerberg dropped out of there.
That's my point. Yeah, that's exactly my point. So it's like, I think there's, people think, to be Elon Musk, do you have to go to Harvard? No. And like, so I think
Elon didn't go to Harvard. So.
I know.
And neither did Bezos.
I know. So the point is, I don't think it says, I think it's useful, it's valuable. And especially if it's free, then why not? But
if you can get it for free,
but
is it worth $200,000 in debt is my question.
Oh, it's going to be more than that. I mean,
oh my God,
it's $100,000 a year now.
Oh my God.
Hello. By the way, you have a kid, right? But
but he's 6.
Okay, so by by the time he goes to college,
you have a college age kid, so you would be on top of this.
I know. I'm paying $95,000 a year.
Oh my God.
Okay. Okay. Thank God there's some financial aid.
Oh my God.
Right?
I don't even understand. Like,
I'm asking Grok
especially
now, how much will Harvard cost?
God.
What year is your kid? Your kid's 4, right? So
no, 6. So
okay,
in 12 years, theoretically.
All right, I'm asking AI this, right?
Let's ask Grok.
Okay, Grok is saying that blah 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 blah.
Accounting for inflation.
Okay, all right, you're gonna love this. Here we go. Total cost will be between $561,000 and $570,000. 1 year at Harvard should be roughly $133,000.
Are they out of their minds? Harvard, what?
Yeah.
I would say
better start saving up those big bucks from the TMI show.
Most kids that graduate Harvard will not make that kind of income. Maybe half of them will, but the other half won't.
Oh, I'm aware. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right?
How would they ever even pay back? I mean, like I said, my girlfriend that's a teacher, right? She's still in debt.
Sure.
Even though she got grants and stuff. I mean, that was just to float paying for dorms and books and food and, just barely enough. But she's a teacher. She's a high school English teacher.
Well, I mean, so Harvard is one of the schools like MIT and UPenn that are addressing these issues. Now, my advice, and this Manila, please remember this when you guys are looking at colleges. But my advice is your best, if you can get into one of these top tier schools, it's cheaper to go to Harvard than it is to go to, say, Swarthmore, because Harvard's going to give you 100% or 95% full ride. But, if you're not making like ridiculous amounts of money, but Swarthmore's not, they're going to give you half. Sure. And it's not that much cheaper. Right. So, the worst deal is to go to like Hamilton College or one of these sort of like 4-year private liberal arts schools. Oh my God. You die because the tuition's brutal, but the financial aid's not that great. So you really want to go for, or
I went to
conversely do it the other way around, go on the low end, go to community college. Like
I did that too
for 2 years, transfer it to a 4-year school. So you're only paying that stuff for 2 years, and then you might get a better. Yeah, that's the other approach, right? So basically, I'm always the extremist, right? Go with one end or the other. The middle tends to be your worst choice. It's sort of like cars. Like you get something that's like cheap or really expensive and nice, but the middle range, like the Lexus, those tend to be like the worst possible buy that you could get.
I disagree. I think that it depends deal to deal, including on the Lexus, because it is a Toyota car. It is Toyota's luxury brand.
A very poorly made Toyota car.
That's not true. It's forever on the car and drivers like Best Buys list.
Now, someone's blowing them at car and driver.
That's not true. I worked in the automobile industry. Trust me, I know. Like I know for a fact.
They don't come out well from accidents. All my friends who've had them, like a fender bender made them look like they'd been hit by a truck.
They even get great safety readings from all of that stuff. So, but at any rate, the college thing I think is a different. What we're looking at now is like right now we're seeing a return of vocational schools. And I think that's a great thing.
And they can't export your job to China.
Right.
So
I personally think that's a wonderful thing because I was like on the 7-year plan for college, Ted. Like I was poor. I had to mention, work and
honestly,
family.
like vocational stuff isn't. I mean, it's not like for meatheads anymore, right? I mean, it's like car repair is basically computer programming now. I mean, it's like that's a different thing. It's not for morons. Not that it ever was, but it's like really
no, not at all.
But like if you were snotty about it in the old days, Exactly. I mean, that's
I know
you
of
have
a
to be
guy.
smart to be a plumber. You have to be
I know
smart to
a
be an
guy that
electrician.
has a plumbing business in California, and I mean, he went to he's I would say he's about your age. He's a multimillionaire, Ted. He has
Oh, I'm
multiple little
sure. I know
plumbing
what they
companies
charge.
in
Yeah.
SoCal,
Hmm.
and he's he owns his own business. He's a multimillionaire from being a plumber. He just ran his business right.
Hmm.
And I mean, you know, our generation is probably the last of where you can get away with not knowing technology.
Hmm.
Whereas the plumbers nowadays, from what I'm understanding, all the technology that's involved in how they can scan for what's wrong with
Hmm.
your plumbing is all computer tech stuff. It's all tech.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Like, like everything, vocational school is not vocational school of yesterday. So I think, Harvard, like, yeah, it looks great, but I was one of those people that was enamored by these Ivy League names when I was young growing up. And in fact, I got into an Oxford program, and 2 weeks later,
Oh,
my
and
dad got his terminal diagnosis of cancer, and I
one
didn't
of our
go.
chatters in the YouTube brings up a really good point, which is Europe. Okay, so Americans don't know, and this is another thing you should remember when you're looking at colleges. You can send your kid outside of the U.S. to go to college, and
yes.
very many countries they don't care if you're American. They'll let you get that local, cheap, or free tuition.
Iceland.
France.
Iceland offers free tuition
France even
to
has
anybody that gets into their college.
France even has programs so it's crazy. If you apply for France, there's a central processing thing, and they admit you to the best school that you qualify to, and then you're in an English-French joint language program. Your kid comes out fluent in French and with the major at the end of 4 years. And so there's all sorts of countries where they're very happy to have you as an American. So
I agree. I think
even if you go to Canada, it's a lot cheaper.
Oh yeah, I mean, and these are nowadays. I think the whole idea of U.S. exceptionalism in anything, name it, whether it's school, medicine, whatever. I think that whole idea is starting to die off. And as we've discussed in previous episodes, right, with the other countries that were once considered second or developing nations are now first world nations themselves. They have world-class colleges, and it's not only just the Oxfords of the world, right?
Mm-hmm,
it's not, who cares? It's a 1,000-year-old university, whatever. Well, there's 25-year-old universities that have been propped up in China that are churning out, like some of the world's top scientists today.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not what it was. That's why I say with Harvard, in order to attract, they're still aiming to attract diversity and hopefully still some of the best in the world. I don't know, because you would think that, that returns back into U.S. society, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true.
All right, we got to keep going here. I have a hard out in 30 minutes, so I'm getting worried here.
Here's the last one. All right, this is our last topic.
All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. This is your favorite. Citing inflation, consumer weakness, and competition from the likes of Temu and Shine, Forever 21's operating business is it Shein?
Shein.
Shein, so shows you what I know. Forever 21's operating business is now in Chapter 21 as of this past weekend and is winding down. The company says it's trying to sell itself off, but hasn't found a buyer. Unless it finds a buyer by May 1st, Forever 21 will shut down all 354 of its U.S. locations. This already began in February. Last month, the company closed 236 stores. Last year, it closed 34. Forever 21 has lost more than $400 million over the last 3 years. That's $150 million last year alone. And it will probably lose $180,000 this year. Simon Property Group, Brookfield Property Partners.
$180 million.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not thousand.
Oh, yeah. $1 million.
I was like, that's it?
That's different. Brookfield and Authentic Brands Group acquired the retailer out of bankruptcy last time in 2020 during the pandemic. A few years ago, Simon, Brookfield, and Authentic thought that the $81 million they paid for Forever 21 was a good deal, but there were already signs that fast fashion sales were slowing down at the time. In 2021, more analysts predicted that fast fashion would fall out of favor as consumers increasingly wanted more sustainable apparel. Meanwhile, anyone still interested in cheap disposable fashion had new options. Shein, or is that Sheenus, became the largest fast fashion retailer in the US. The fast fashion market here grew 15% over the first half of the year in 2021, while Shein grew by nearly 160%. Chinese brands like Temu and Shein shrugged off copyright concerns and made the fast fashion of Forever 21. H&M and Zara looked slow and then went after Gen Z on TikTok.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly it. So like I'm at the tail end of Gen X. So I would be, if I was lumped into the millennial, I would be like the most geriatric of the geriatric millennials who are now all in their 40s of you know, the first group of millennials. So I'm just slightly older than them. So this to me further just puts that last nail in the coffin of the American shopping mall, which I mourn, because I was coming of age in the 90s, you know, you remember all those Gen X movies, you know, starring like Winona Ryder,
of course,
Ben
Reality
Stiller,
Bites.
you know, yes, yeah. Reality, like it was Mallrats. That was the era, right? That we were all at the shopping mall, and that was where, I mean, Forever 21 is ubiquitous. You know, by the late 90s into the early 2000s, it was ubiquitous across all American shopping malls everywhere. That's where all the girls shopped. That's where everybody did, you know, just, and I get it. So for me, seeing Forever 21, the death of Forever 21 is kind of like seeing the death of a piece of my youth, right? Hanging out at the mall, getting my Orange Julius and my Auntie M's, their salt, no, not salt and pepper. It was a bagel. No, it was a pretzel shaped. They tried to mimic a churro, but in a pretzel, which was actually pretty good. All of this, it's the death of like part of American culture, Ted. And maybe it should be shut down. Forever 21, this fast fashion, it's a lot of garbage. Let's be honest. It's not sustainable fashion in the sense of like how much waste and petroleum it's used to make all of its clothing, because it's like acrylics and like just non-natural fabrics, not cotton, stuff like that. And then it all goes to waste dumps, and then it gets shipped off to piles of shit in third world countries. And then it just becomes just a pile of garbage somewhere else because it cost you $8 for that blouse. Right.
True.
And you know, so maybe it's a good thing that the younger generation, the Gen Zers, are opting for quality over quantity, and they're opting for higher quality products that are made of, like, let's say, bamboo material, believe it or not, or plain old cotton, which is better for your
merino wool.
Yeah, or you know, all that stuff, all these natural fibers are actually, and this is for all the California hippies out there, are better for your energy levels because they have a higher vibration. And I sound like Marianne Williamson right now.
I was going to say, what the fuck?
It's true.
What have you done with my co-host, and who are you?
It is true, Ted. It's the Californian yogi person in me.
Oh my
God.
God.
Crunchy. These natural, like the merino wools and the 100% cottons, those things they vibrate at a higher frequency, which actually bring your body and your state of mind into a much calmer place.
What about the vibration of my BVDs against my sheeness?
So this is the thing. But look, all these young people, like this girl, this is somebody you would find all over the place in Los Angeles or Orange County. This is like a girl from back home. I could tell by looking at her. This is a girl from back home.
Wait, what is she
doing?
She's not
vibrating. She's not vibrating at a high frequency, Ted. She is not.
I don't
she's
think.
Wearing, she's wearing these like
not much
cheap, not much, and cheap fashions, which really bring down your energy levels. Ted. She's into cheap fashions.
So the only time I've
And-
ever had anything to do with fast fashion, I was on a trip, and I ran short of underwear, and I guess I didn't bring enough. So I stopped by H&M in a European capital
in
Lisbon and purchased a couple of pairs of, underwear.
H&M underwear.
H&M underwear, and by the way, I gotta say it's hard. I'm a briefs man because I wear jeans, and you can't wear boxers and jeans because they ruck up under your jeans. I mean, I guess people do, but I don't. And anyway, so it's hard to find American style briefs overseas. You get all these weird like male underwear that have strange shapes and look like something Borat would wear. And you're like, what? So anyway, the point is H&M kind of came close, and they were the shortest lasting underwear I've ever owned in my life. I mean, they're basically disposable. I think I got like maybe 20 washes out of them, and then they died. They had holes in them after like 20 washes.
Fast fashion. Well,
that's pretty bad.
I mean, were they cheap though? So then you got to calculate.
They were cheap. They were very cheap. I was like, God, they're so cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cost per wear. That's kind of, cost per wear / wash. That's how you kind of have to calculate its usefulness. Then your return on investment.
Guys' underwear, you kind of just want to you just want them to last a long time because you're just wearing them all the time, right? Over and over. Nobody's seeing them. So like
except wives that do the laundry.
Even so, it's like, you're not hanging out in them, or maybe you are.
No, I don't know. You men lounge around in underwear all the time, but like this whole thing, that it goes to your point. It just becomes you burn through it quickly is my point with fast fashion.
Yeah.
And I think the broader story here is the death of the American mall. And I find that very sad because everything has gone online. And for me, when I look at the mall, whether it's indoor mall like this dead mall that we're looking at here, this abandoned mall, I don't know where it is, but this dead mall, or whether it's like Americana at Brand, if anyone's been to Burbank, California, or the Grove, same maker, outdoor mall. It's the overall death of these types of places where people go to shop and congregate and eat and just hang out and people watch, That's all. That's like a part of a bygone era, Ted. And I feel that makes me sad because now people want to only look at other people through a screen rather than people. The mall used to be a people zoo. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's
it was
true.
A people zoo, and that's how we learned how to be people and work in. As a teenager, you're at the mall. You learn how to have social functions, right? Like, you learn how to flirt with people by making eyes across the food court, or something like that. Or you're at the arcade. And it's just so sad to me. Like, look at this dead, defunct mall. And Forever 21 is part of that. Part of the complaint from Forever 21, or at least one of these guys that works at these data companies, says that part of Forever 21's problem is that it was designed for a different era. The fact that it exists in all the malls is part of the problem.
So what happened with malls? I mean, I assume primarily, and we should get on to our main topic, but I assume that mainly what happened with malls is that people wanted a more directed shopping experience as the internet took off and people realized they could just get something delivered direct to their door. That affected bricks and mortar in general. But like basically the mall was sort of like a mediocre but broad shopping experience. In other words, it has a lot of stores, but it doesn't have like any. You go into like say the mall bookstore, it's an bookstore. Barnes and Noble is a big, good bookstore that has a lot of stuff. So it's like it doesn't need to be in the mall. It's a standalone destination. If you go to H&M, it's a meh clothing store. It's not like a big, a more directed thing. So I don't know.
But even still, I think it serves as a function. And I think that's what I'm mourning. Like, Forever 21 in particular, I think is going to be something sad for women my age, like, 40 to 45-ish, because we came of age shopping at the mall at Forever 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for people around my age, we're gonna, even though we don't shop there anymore, right? Because we're middle-aged women at this point. We don't shop there anymore. Some of us have graduated to Ann Taylor, blah, boring. But for professional lives, you're shopping at Ann Taylor, you're buying, at Chico's or something. But this is a final reminder to the geriatric millennials that you ain't young no more, sister. It's over. It's the end. Forever 21 has died, and so has your youth. Let it go.
I
Let it
also,
be.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I gotta say, I never really appreciated the mall shopping experience. The mall was like sort of mall as entertainment, right? Like my father was really into that during court-ordered visitations. He would, we'd wander the mall, maybe see a movie, go to the pinball arcade, do some shopping. But I think, as I've gotten and became an adult myself, I was kind of like, the whole idea of it was exhausting. First of all, the mall is always on the outside of town. So you have to go out into the hinterlands to go there. Then you have to park the car. It's 12 minutes before you're even through the front door. And then you're always like, the store you want that you really have in mind is like on the other side. So now you got to like walk a mile. It's like walking through the Houston
But that's
airport.
how you get exercise.
Well, that's true. There's those mall walker, like older dudes.
Because now you're just like, we're all fat asses just clicking and buying, and Amazon brings it to you.
That's true. That is true. By the way, whatever happened to the drones that were supposed to bring Amazon packages? That never happened.
I know. I haven't looked.
I'm okay with that, by the way.
No, COVID got me used to having Amazon delivery, which is probably, I don't know, part of the big wealth transfer.
Terrible for the environment. Yeah.
Terrible for the environment, terrible for malls. But because no one else shops, they're like, Manila alone cannot keep the malls alive, people. I have no one to look at when I go to the mall. So, and it was a good place to keep your kids indoors and still running around. There used to be like the local mall in Whittier that I went to no longer exists. They turned it into a big open air plaza, which is mall-ish, I guess, but not quite. But the mall, the Whitwood Mall, as it were, when I was a kid, in the center of the mall, near the food court, was this big, like, kids' indoor playground with like hard wooden. It had like zoo animals, like a big gorilla and a big giraffe. These are hard wooden things that kids can climb on and whatever. Okay. And it was.
I thought you were saying it had real ones.
No, these are big wooden hard toys.
I'm as you know, no one knows this, but I'm older than Manila. And when I was a kid, they didn't care about children. So like they exposed us to all sorts of dangers. So for example,
like 1985.
Yeah, like when I was a kid and like I went to the Dayton Natural History Museum, they had like a live fox that you could just touch. And
what?
He might bite you. Yeah, that's on you. if that happens. Or at the Cincinnati Zoo, they had the alligators and crocodiles, and don't forget the caimans. The caimans are always like, fuck you, alligators and crocodiles, taking all the press. We're here too. Anyway, they had them in these enclosures where they were separated, but they were kept in behind these bars that were pretty wide, okay? Like maybe about 9 inches across. And if you got too close, which you could, kids do, the crocs would like turn on their side and try to reach through and like bite your leg. Again, it's like if your kid is stupid, maybe you weren't meant to reproduce. And it's a crocodile. It's a good day for the crocodile. So,
well, I mean, I guess that's the difference from the 70s to the 80s. It was like,
right. They started to care about children.
Too many kids were getting dragged through the bars. So, right. They
there were some reforms.
There were some reforms, but I'll tell you, at the LA Zoo in the 80s, you could still pet a lot of I remember this. There are pictures of me riding camels at the camel exhibit.
Hmm.
You could and riding elephants. You could ride elephants and camels at the LA Zoo in the 1980s because
That's cool. Well, I have ridden in Thailand. I've ridden an elephant.
Yeah, I have. I mean, this is that's Thailand. This is the Los Angeles Zoo.
Right. Yeah,
near Dodger Stadium.
I'm sure that they don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore.
But that, like in Russia, they probably you can ride bears.
You have that in your backyard.
That's totally that's normal. Yeah, I mean, I have so many videos.
Walk your bear at the mall.
Russians have wolves. Russia. So many Russian. It's like if you don't have a wolf in Russia, you're like a
Are you even Russian? Are you even Russian?
I have regular dog. Everyone makes fun of me.
Like I have 5 Rottweilers. You're such a wuss.
You are homosexual.
Where is Wolf?
yeah.
Where is Wolf? So yeah. Anyway, this is the whole thing that I'm looking at. I'm looking at that's what's on screen is like the death of this mall or a mall.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it still exists, but there was a website called Dead Malls dedicated entirely.
I need to look that up.
To dead malls.
I would like to go explore one. Actually, I'd like to see one like these guys.
I'm like you. I used to love urban exploration. I used to sneak into abandoned subway stations here in New York City.
I've never seen. I didn't know. I've never seen
there's an abandoned subway under Cincinnati that I broke into.
Oh.
There used to be an abandoned train track under Riverside Park in New York. Now it's used again. And and I used to there's the High Line, which you may have heard of here in New York.
Yes.
Which is now a big fancy tourist thing. But back in the 80s, it was an abandoned stretch that you had to sneak up onto. So I love that kind of thing. I love abandoned buildings. I used to go to check out things like that all the time. So yeah, I'm way into it.
This is what's going to happen to Forever 21, and everything's going to be sold for like 25 cents and whatever, and everyone's going to fill up on all their junk. And again, I've been there because it was, it's built for teenagers and young women in their 20s when your budget doesn't allow for merino wool or cashmere. So
yeah. Although, seriously, as a merino wool aficionado, I'll just say, you buy a merino wool t-shirt, it'll last forever. Now, the thing is, particularly women don't really like to wear. They've been acculturated to think that they have to change their clothes all the time. They can't just wear the same thing year after year after year. Men don't have that problem. So
I know.
So I think in a weird, I will say, the big revolution here, and they didn't talk about this in the Forever 21 article, is definitely work at home. It's like if you're working at home, you're not, when you worked in an office, you really couldn't be seen as wearing, even as a guy, wearing the same suit every day or the same shirt every day. But you had to have a lot of rotation. Yeah. That's not. But obviously, if you're at home, it's a completely different ballgame. You want your clothes to last, and you want them to be higher quality. You want them to be comfortable. You don't want them to be scratchy or itchy.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm all about comfort. I mean, there's the difference between Manila on TV versus real life Manila that basically wears an at-home uniform, right? This is what I look like at home.
I remember TV Manila.
TV Manila
was.
I had to have, to your point about
lots of makeup.
To your point about us women having to wear different things all the time. People would make comments on RT's website
if they saw the same thing twice.
If they saw me wearing the same dress, even in the same month, if they can remember that I wore that dress, they would comment that I wore that dress before.
What's up with you? I know, Vanna White famously wears a different outfit every day.
It was like, dude, how many clothes do you think I can own? I cannot
or should own. Right.
Well, right. Why should I keep shopping? And God bless RT and giving us the clothing budget that they allowed us to have. But eventually I fought against it and I didn't want to have the fast fashion to do that because I felt like I was contributing to, you know, just the piles of junk and piles of clothing and like it just went to waste. So, you know, in came Rent the Runway, and in came clothes where I was like, you know what, screw you guys. Like, I'm a normal person. I don't have room to own 50,000 dresses. I'm sorry. I can't wear a dress one time.
So current little bit of breaking news. Trump is talking to Putin right now. We knew he would be. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is now officially stating that the Trump administration will not obey the federal court order against removing those Venezuelan immigrants who were accused of being gangbangers, but now there's increasing evidence coming out that at least some of them are just normal people who didn't disobey any laws whatsoever and were not members.
Other than being illegal migrants.
Well, okay, maybe illegal migrants. Anyway, Pam Bondi says that the judge is intruding on the president's authority. This one federal judge thinks he can control foreign policy for the entire country, and he cannot, she said. So this is absolutely a constitutional crisis at this point, when officially with the administration, the executive branch is refusing to obey a direct or court order by a federal judge, which up until this doesn't happen. So this is, we're in new territory now. We've been asked, like, when does a constitutional crisis happen? We said when the administration disobeys a court order. Here we are.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's been a lot of incidents of many U.S. presidents in the last 20 years that have quietly put us in constitutional crises in different ways. Like,
oh, that's true.
Biden with this free speech stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. But this is kind
I'm not
of like
freaked out.
I never think that being freaked out helps anything. But, I take note of the fact that this is crossing a Rubicon. Many presidents have walked right up to that line and stepped over it. But this is a big leap, like, fuck you.
My hair's not on fire. I'm not indifferent to it. I understand what's happening. But, I'm also not shocked. So, what are you going to do other than what? Have some protests? What are you going to, like, what is anyone going to do?
Well, I hate to say it. I mean, if an administration is behaving outside of the Constitution, it should be removed. I mean, period.
This one would have to be thoroughly discussed on the congressional floor, but I don't think it's going to happen either.
That's not going to happen under Republican control. And so, I mean, the only workaround really would be massive popular demonstrations involving millions of people day after day after day.
But that's
obviously not going to happen either. We don't have any organization that could even assuming that people would be willing to show up. There's no leftist, or there is no left in the United States.
We're all busy online shopping.
That's true, for our fast fashion.
That's right.
All right, we got to wrap.
That's going to do it. That's it. That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're not going to be live. We're going to give you a heads up. We are pre-taping with Mark Sloboda for our 100th episode for tomorrow. So we're still going to be airing as live per normal.
We'll be talking about the results of the phone call between Putin and
Trump.
Trump, yeah. That guy.
And Orange Jesus. So that's what's on the docket for tomorrow. But we'll still be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. So until then, adios, amigos. Thanks for being here. Make sure to click like and subscribe wherever you are. Adios, amigos. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Manila.